Hello, trade professionals. We are back with another news roundup. Woo! I am moderator Anik, and I have Lalo and Andy. Let's go with the first one. Hot topic of the week, I would say. Lalo came in with it. This was a change on the articles just because I had not seen this because it was this recent. So it is the UK's post-Brexit trade deals with Australia and New Zealand kick in. So basically, what they are doing is that they're lowering. Wait, am I confused this with India now?
No,
No.
it's a trade deal. They're lowering the tariffs.
Oh, okay. They're also lowering the tariffs. Okay. I got a little ahead of myself. Yes. So lowering tariffs, which is kind of always good for. Well, okay, we'll get into that. So my questions are what the means are of this deal, and can it change the economy of the UK, which has been kind of declining.
No, actually, the UK economy has been it's stagnated some, but it has actually done fairly well. There's been some changes, adjustments, but all right, just to finish out though, so everybody understands, the UK has done a trade deal with Australia and New Zealand. So it's a free trade deal, if you will, that will stimulate international trade between the UK, Australia, and New Zealand.
I have to add, the deal talks about removing tariffs of hand-picked UK good exports. So that's what it says in the article.
Well, and initially it's talking about the UK commodities. This is written from a UK perspective. This is a deal that looks like it would be a big win for all three of those countries. Obviously, they're all from the previous British Empire. So you got the UK now, and Australia and New Zealand were former British Empire countries, which is a good thing.
Well, I just researched it because obviously I don't know too much about the trade agreement, only because I didn't study it or read up on it before it was even ratified. It came into effect earlier this week on May 31st. So that was officially, and if anything, and if anything, they are very proud of this because this is the first free trade agreement that the UK has done independently on their own after Brexit. So that's why, if anything, that's why it's significant. It's at least getting them started to be independent, not part of the EU, not part of the the group of nations that had negotiated even other agreements in the past. So this is all Brexit. I'm sorry, all UK and only UK, with of course Australia and New Zealand. I did read that it eliminates 99%. It eliminates tariffs for over 99% of Australian and New Zealand exports entering Britain, but it'll be phased out. I mean, it will be over phases, kind of like other free trade agreements are, like with USMCA and all these other, it phases out the duties. So on the surface, it looks good. What I did read is things like farmers are not very happy. Because apparently UK farmers, because apparently it's weighted heavily towards New Zealand and Australian farmers. Again, I didn't read too much more beyond that. And of course, the buzzword of recent podcasts that we've had and that we're hearing on the news is that critics are saying that it's compromising the environment. They didn't do enough to do environmental protection. So anyway, those are the two big things that I did read that are against it. Again, I read the official press release from the UK government, and they're of course touting it. It's really good. They do put a lot of stats up there, and so that's the extent of what I did find out. So
well, it said that it's going to increase the GDP, right?
Right.
Well, the whole idea is to stimulate trade, and in stimulating trade, it improves the economy of all three countries.
We're gonna go straight to our second article. US-led Pacific Group reaches deal on supply chain resilience. So the article is a little wishy-washy, but I'm sure we have some good comments by Lalo and Andy. So as I was reading it, I kind of was convinced that this is a good thing. I know it was a little different when we had Trump because he wasn't really in favor with other countries. But for this article, it sounds like a good thing, and I think most supply chain issues are somewhat of a world issue, where countries kind of have to work and coordinate together. I think that's how we all make everything work more smoothly. So this also touches on China, which we did not have an article about, but it talks about reducing its huge influence, which China has been trying to um, get into, like being a huge influencer on the world. So I just want to touch on this, like what is happening with this US-led Pacific group, and what do you take up from this, and how do you feel like it's gonna, what is it going to move towards? So are there any deals that are coming through? Does this have to do with like new trade deals, or what are your thoughts?
Well, it's you've got U.S. led. The U.S. led this effort. Pacific Group, again, what they're saying, reaches deal on supply chain resilience. This is an article that comes out saying, "Oh, look at what we've done." As I've already said, this is the biggest bag of hogwash I've ever seen. It's just a bunch of stuff here where somebody's a big bag of hot air that's going out here. Hey, we're really working towards to minimize China's influence. And what the whole deal is, what does it mean? In this article, it says that there's a deal of all these countries on supply chain resilience. Well, what does that mean? That means that supposedly when there's backlogs of things and all that, the article goes in to say and how the is it Raimondo is one of the secretary that
Yes.
is saying, well, with the bottlenecks, there's going to be a framework here so that we're going to put together a council of people to address that, and an emergency measures to be taken. Well, what are they? I mean, a council. Oh, gee, we have a backup of 75 ships in the port of Long Beach or something like that, and they're waiting, moored off out there, waiting to get offloaded. Oh, let's talk to the council and see what they can do. And they're going, yep, there's a lot of ships out there in the ocean. So I'm sorry. I see this as an article where there's a government entity in this point that's coming out saying, we've got a great trade deal to work on supply chain resilience. Doesn't mean a cotton picking thing here. I mean, this is like, what does that mean?
So do you think that the entire meeting or whatever they did was just like literally nothing, or do you blame the article right now, or do you blame that they really didn't really establish anything?
Well, Bloomberg is a very reputable group, and I'm sure that the person that has written this is, very astute. And I think that's fine. I think the scenario where, as I've said, this is like, somebody bloviating all over. Look at what we've really got together, and yet there's no details to address where are the bottlenecks they're talking about specifically, and what are they going to do about them, and what can they do about them, and and all that. The other side of this is talking about a labor wage effort or whatever on that. So they're looking at trying to make sure that, I guess, labor rates are sufficient in certain areas. Well, what's that have to do with the resilience of your supply chain? It's again, smoke and mirrors, in my opinion, on what this, and it's like trying to put lipstick on a pig to try and sell this deal to say we've done something, and in reality, you haven't done squat. But that's my opinion.
Right, and that's what it looks like, because what I thought was weird or strange or ironic, let's say ironic. What I thought was ironic is that I think 12 out of these 14 countries are all part of what originally was a TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So I don't know if it's a way to revive that or not, or what they're trying to get at with that, in other words.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I'll just say this, Anik and Lalo, as we're looking at this is just one that, you know what? Okay, I'm hoping that something really does come out of it. But having something called a response network to some bottlenecks of what are the specific bottlenecks they're talking about, nobody knows. I mean, to those of us that are dealing with logistics and you're moving things via ocean, the West Coast ports get backed up. Why is that? Because all of those ports are not operating 7/24. All they're doing is they're talking a good game. Here's the other question. What if there are supply chain bottlenecks in, I don't know, in Thailand or in Australia? Is this network going to do something? I don't see any results of it. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll leave it at that.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep our eyes on that then to see if it's, I don't know, a story to even keep talking about. But maybe someone will reach out and say, "Oh, I have like some more details about that," or actually, you're not getting it. So hopefully, someone will do that. Let's challenge
Hey,
someone.
to that point, please, if somebody thinks I'm full of beans, come on, let's talk about it.
We're gonna move on to Article 3, which this one's kind of interesting to me. We haven't talked really about India because they're never really in the news. So they are this week. So India considers cutting solar panel import tax to make up domestic shortfall. And we have talked a lot about solar panels in the past, and we know that China has a huge part of those solar panels because they have like the certain parts or whatever. And I understood from the article that they imposed those taxes to kind of keep China's exports lowered or something like that. I mean, correct me later. But I'm just questioning now that they're cutting these kind of taxes, they're basically helping China again, right? Is that what I'm saying? Let me see what else I wrote down. And then I'm asking, what can that mean for American companies? So maybe can American companies compete there? Or will they have a chance to export to India? Or are they even able to, because do they even have the parts? So I kind of want to understand the situation more, especially what this means for China.
Well, let me say that there is a phenomenal U.S. India business trade group that is very active, and there are some phenomenal things as far as business with India, to India and from India. I will say this is one of those things where I've been fortunate enough to, when I was in my FedEx days, we actually worked with India as well as the Department of Agriculture and made significant strides in regulations on getting India India grown mangoes into the U.S. And man, I'm telling you what, you talking about a fantastic fruit. That is just phenomenal. Now, going the other way here with the solar panels, not just the U.S., but other countries that by chance manufacture solar panels, would benefit from India's. What they're saying here is India's very big on protecting their own industries. So, that's what the deal is with the tariffs. What it appears is that they do not have the capacity within India on their India manufactured solar panels to keep up with the growth of solar energy expansion. Let's put it that way. Hence, So you're saying, I mean, I'm not so opposed to, always being against China. I mean, I salute China for they're being very aggressive in their stance on things. I have a lot of respect for that. I don't agree with a lot of their push, but it still doesn't mean to say they, if they are manufacturing solar panels and India cannot keep up with the demand, then yeah, they want to lower the tariff so that more countries will ship to them. So I think to that credit, it gives the opportunity for an easier expansion of solar energy technology into India.
No, yeah, I didn't. I don't know. I couldn't get much out of it other than that they're trying to increase their production of solar panels out in India, and it seems like a good deal all around. They do want to increase their. I guess Andy earlier in the show said that the biggest uh, environmental polluters are China and India, and this is an effort for them to be more green, I guess, if you want to call it, and increase their solar energy. So I mean, I don't know. I can't.
I mean, I didn't even think about that. Now that I think about solar panels, I mean, I feel like actually it is a good thing at this point.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, the more they have of the panels, and because they're cutting taxes on importations, the more demand there's going to be, and in essence, the more production that might increase domestically as well, and create more jobs for them as well. So I believe that's the goal or the effort put forth on doing this. So
Well, I will say this though, that as far as opportunity with the U.S., India, several years back, I'm not current on my information here, so some of the information I have is maybe 5 years old. But India was probably the number 11 as far as importing goods from other countries into the U.S. So there were other countries ahead of them. And at the time, we were importing probably $48 billion worth of goods. And there were like 25 or almost 26 billion from US to India goods. So there was a trade deficit of just under 23 billion at the time, out of 800 billion in a trade deficit. So the trade between U.S. and India is in the billions. It's like close to total trade is somewhere around 60-70 billion dollars in trade between the U.S. and India. There should be some opportunity for some U.S. companies in this particular deal with them lowering their tariffs on solar panels, if for those that are made here. But I don't know if any U.S. Are there any U.S. manufacturers of solar panels anymore?
I don't know. I think we had a story on that very early on in
Yeah.
our.
No, I actually now that you mention it, I kind of wonder what happened with that, because remember it was like a deal to where they didn't know um
They
if
all went belly up.
yeah, if they could reduce like the costs or something, they were granted some sort of money.
As I recall, and again, this and we may need to edit some of this, but as I recall, during Obama's administration, where they were pushing some things, there was heavy government subsidies for solar technology, and there were manufacturers that set up and were manufacturing solar panels. But as soon as the government money ran out, the private sector was just not buying the goods, and every one of them, my understanding, went out of business. So, is there an opportunity there? Yeah, but if somebody has the ability to produce solar panels, whether it's in the U.S. or any other country, India would be a good market to look at.
Maybe we can get someone. We hear so much for solar panels. Like maybe we can get someone who works like somewhere in logistics and solar panels or something. That would be kind of interesting, because That's a big up. I mean,
Yeah.
people love
I'm
solar
looking
panels.
at this article from Forbes magazine, and it says there are quite a few manufacturers of solar panels in the US, but they source all their materials from abroad. So none of it is made here.
So now I do have an interesting fact for you guys, and I think Lalo already knows it. I have a feeling. So maybe
I'm looking forward to this. What
So
do we
maybe
got?
Lalo will not answer this because I have a feeling he knows because I think he saw it. But which fruit is the most traded?
Bananas?
How do you know?
I don't know if I was right or not, but I just figured it would be bananas.
Yeah, it is bananas. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, in 2019, over 21 million tons of bananas were traded across the globe. That's enough bananas to go around the earth about 40 times. Holy
Oh my
moly.
gosh.
That's wild. That is so wild. Wow.
Oh
And
man.
that's funny because I have some bananas going bad right now. So
Hey, I got to tell you, I'm interested in some Southern style of banana pudding.
oh, that sounds good. I could probably
To-
do that with
to-
my roast bananas in the kitchen.
Well, down here we just call it banana pudding, but when we lived up in Canada up there, somebody said, "Is that?" We'd taken a potluck and my wife had made banana pudding, and go in there and somebody said, "Is that some Southern banana pudding?" I'm like, "Well, it's just banana pudding." And man, they chowed down on that stuff. I mean, there was none of it left. They loved it. It was a great big vat of it. So.
Wow, that sounds so good. Don't talk about it anymore. That sounds way too good. Okay, thank you guys for listening. Again, if you have any articles that you want to discuss or that you want me to have questions to, because I have questions to everything, let us know. Send it to us. Also, follow us, like our podcast. That's really all. Thank you, Lalo. Thank you, Andy. Goodbye. Have a great week.
Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.